So what do you do to protect yourself from these viruses? Low stress, top, number one, most important. Get enough vitamin D. Turns out that having higher levels of vitamin D makes you less likely to get symptoms. So you'll get the illness and you'll get antibodies against it and you'll be immune to it, but you'll say, gee, I didn't even know I had it. That's really what you want, because then you got both. You got immunity, you're never going to get it again, and you didn't even know you had it, so no symptoms. That's really the ideal place to be. That's better than vaccines and all that stuff. So the other things are to make sure your immune system's functioning well. Zinc is really important, selenium, and vitamin C. And the best way to get vitamin C, again, instead of the pill, the reductive pill that has just the ascorbic acid in it, ideally you want vitamin C with bioflavonoids. So if you're getting your vitamin C from strawberries and oranges and grapefruits and peppers and salads, and if you're getting your vitamin C from fruit and vegetables, then you're getting a spectrum of what we would call a vitamin C.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. We're so glad that you guys are here. I haven't been here, it feels like, in forever. I think it was really only 1 week, but it felt like a month. So I'm excited to be back. And as you can see, we have our friend Eric is joining. He is a part of the Barton team, and I'll have him introduce himself here in just a minute. I'm going to wait for all of you to hop on. Episode 141 today, guys.
Woo!
That's crazy. That is crazy. I mean, I think I've moved twice since we started doing these webinars. So, because I can remember doing them in the basement of a house 3 houses ago. So we've been doing these for a while. We so appreciate having Dr. Saunders here because some of you may be new, but those of you who have been around for a while as well know that he is just phenomenal. I appreciate him for what he believes, for what he stands for, but also he's such a good teacher who takes like the hard things and makes them easy to understand for the everyday person like myself. And he's just really fun. So we so appreciate him, but he also sees patients in his office. Not every day? Do you have days off?
Well, I take Sundays off, and in my office I have like 3 days, but then I do a lot of the telehealth visits on other days. So yeah, I don't have many days off.
I didn't think so. And then on those off days, we're the ones sending you messages, right? But he sees a lot of patients who are wanting to overcome their type 2. And so the information that he talks about on these webinars is exactly what he talks to his patients about in his office. The benefit of the webinar is that you're getting it for free, which is lovely. We don't have to submit the webinar to insurance.
Hey, nothing's free.
Right? Like that. It's amazing. And so if you haven't seen all of these webinars, you can go to bartonwebinar.com. I'll post that in the chat here in a minute. But go back, find the link to our YouTube channel and watch all of those webinars. You don't have to watch all 141 in one day. But if you want an education on type 2, how you can overcome it, what's working for others, what questions other people are asking, it's a really, really, really great resource. I've learned so much from Dr. Saunders, and it's just so good. So
this is the Talk is Cheap webinar, or you get what you pay for.
I don't know. This is very good, guys. So, and we have so many people who've been coming back week after week, and they're just so thankful. I get emails every day from people who are just so thankful that they've gotten the information that they've gotten, and they're just shocked that Dr. Saunders answers their questions while they're on the webinar. They just can't believe it. And
I get people calling my office. They're saying, "Is he a real doctor? Is this really a Dr. Saunders office?"
Yes,
all over the country.
He's real.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah. So the benefit of the webinar is that you get to ask your questions, guys. So if you're on Zoom right now, you can see the Q&A area. That's where you're going to ask your questions. That's the easiest way for me to navigate those. And what we like to do is do some teaching to start out with, typically, and then we do some questions. So before we get started, I'm going to have Eric actually introduce himself.
Right. Thanks, Leslie. So my name's Eric Holman. I've been with Barton for about 6 months now. I do marketing, customer experience, and take any opportunity to hang out with Leslie and Dr. Saunders. So I convinced Joe to let me come hang out on the webinar today while he's at an affiliate summit in New York, and happy to be here.
Yeah, Eric's awesome. And some of you may remember him because he has been on the webinar before. And it's always a treat when we get to have part of our team hop on and share a little bit about what we do, what they do. We have a really, really close team, which I've mentioned that before, but we all really like each other. We travel together. We know each other's families. It's a really cool team. So we're thankful for that. Let's also do one more thing before we get right into it. I'm going to have Dr. Saunders give us a disclaimer.
Okay, the disclaimer is I don't claim to be your doctor, and we don't claim to be giving you specific information. Our claim is we're giving general information that applies to people generally, and sometimes the questions are very specific. What do I do about this? And if that's a question like that, I'm going to answer it more in a general way and say, okay, this is the general information. Now that may apply to you or it may not. So it's important that you work with someone who is knowledgeable about this to be able to advise you on whether that's good for you.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get right into it today. It looks like we have quite a few of you on. Say hello if you're on Facebook. We talk about type 2. Let's talk about what happens in your body when you have a type 2 diagnosis. What is going on?
Okay. This is really a broad topic because it's not just one thing going on. There's so much to this, what we call type 2, that it really should be divided up into like 10 different illnesses. It's really a lot of different things going on. Generally, you just look at the big picture, generally it's too much. Too much what? Well, too many carbohydrates, too much fat, too much protein, too much food in general, eating too frequently, too much insulin, too much glucagon. It's all the too much stuff, right? And that's type 2 is too much. So the way to apply this is that, but wait a minute, I eat the same as my husband, and so why do I have diabetes and he doesn't? We're both eating the exact same things. We have our plates exactly the same. What the heck? Because there's much more to it than that. Like I said, there's a lot more underlying this too much. And that is, you have to look at it as too much for you, because in your case, you might have some hormone imbalances. I had somebody come in the other day who had an adrenal problem. It's the adrenal glands are putting out too much cortisol, right? So that too much cortisol causes insulin resistance. It causes too much insulin. And then too much insulin causes the person to have cravings. And so they crave carbs. And so they're eating too many carbohydrates. And then the carbohydrates cause more insulin. But the insulin is resistant because of too much of the adrenal hormones. So all of this cycle gets set up. But and if you look at the amount, the actual amount, it may not seem like too much. For her, it was too much. For me, it wouldn't have been. I would have lost weight on what she was eating. So it's not a simple question of you can have this much. Okay, so then you're going to say, well, I read the diabetes solution kit and it says that, boom, my 20 grams of carbohydrates. Okay, But still, we have people calling in and saying, okay, I'm doing it exactly phase one, exactly the way you say to do it, but it's not working. Well, why not? Okay, you're having too much. Too much what? Well, of the other things, too much fat, too much protein would be a simple way to look at it. So I had somebody who actually did that. His wife, he and his wife are eating the same things. They're going to the same restaurants. They're eating at home, same. And she's losing.
We must have lost him. Are you there?
Weight.
Oh,
He swore that they were eating the same amount. So it turns out that he was protein, so his insulin and extra.
you're cutting out, Dr. Saunders.
Fat.
Shoot.
What?
You're cutting out. Eric, is he
Did
cutting
you
out
lose
for you?
me?
Yeah. Yeah, it keeps cutting
Darn.
out. So we're missing it. We heard the part where the two of
Okay.
them are eating the same thing, or they're doing the exact same thing, and then we don't know. It's a mystery.
Okay. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks okay. Okay.
I'm gonna turn my video
So
off.
the two of them are eating this. Two of them are eating the same thing. He's gaining weight. She's losing weight. And so we figured out over time that he had an issue with protein. That whenever he ate protein, his insulin level went way up. He had a response to protein that made his insulin go up, and his because his insulin went up, it caused him to put on weight, to fat, because insulin's the hormone that tells you to put on more fat. So you don't want your insulin to go up. So now you think about that. I have too much insulin, right? Insulin's making me put on weight. So I got to get rid of that. So you eat low carbohydrate diets, but if you're eating protein, sometimes that'll do it. The other thing that can do it, and I've had cases of this, of eating too much fat. Fat makes you resistant to insulin all by itself. So if you're saying, well, I'm on my 20-gram carbohydrate diet and I'm just eating, 3,000 calories a day of fat and protein, well, that's not going to work. That's not, well, for some people actually does, because they actually burn that much. But for a lot of people, that's not going to work, because they may be getting more insulin resistant and they may have too much protein. So the simple way to look at this is, okay, we cut your carbs by a lot. And then what? Cut your portion sizes too. If you want to increase food, increase fiber. So there are certain foods you can have that are fiber fueled. It's like broccoli and celery and cauliflower and spinach and jicama. These high fiber foods are, and the one they're listed. If you look in the diabetes solution kit, they're listed. They're called free foods, and they add fiber without adding a lot of carbs or fat or protein, as a rule. And so if you want to eat more and have and without getting insulin resistant, without having too much of the protein or fats or carbohydrates for that matter, the way to do that is to increase fiber. So that's the one thing you probably can't get too much of. It's really funny. You can eat all the fiber you want, and you may get diarrhea, but beyond that, even that isn't a health problem by itself. But getting too much of the other things, they're called macronutrients, is a problem with most diabetics. So the overall picture is too much, and then the specific type may apply to you differently. You may find that you do fine on a high-fat diet. I've had several people recently who have come in and said, as long as I was doing the ketogenic diet, I felt good. I had good energy. I lost weight. I kept my normal body weight, and I was good. I've had other people that said that did not work for me. doing that. The application is how it works for you. So you can't say that because somebody else is eating more than you and not gaining weight, that you should be able to eat as much as they do. That's not the way it works. Unfortunately, you can't compare yourself to others. So you have to apply each of these principles to your situation and how it works for you, depending on your hormone balance.
Okay. And one thing that Dr. Saunders keeps talking about is our diabetes solution kit, which many of you have. But if you're not familiar with it, this is a really, really, basically, if you were meeting with Dr. Saunders in his office, this is what he would recommend for you. It's kind of where we start, I would say. So there are different phases. It talks to you about how to eat, how to count the carbs. It's just a really, really great book full of knowledge. You can get the digital copy of this, or you can get this in the physical copy like this. And if you want more information about that, you can go to bartonwebinar.com. I did post that in the chat for you guys. But this is where everything that we're talking about really stems from this. And so if you haven't purchased this yet, this would be a really, really good thing to do. You know, in that phase 1, Dr. Saunders talks about keeping your carbs at 20 or below. Those are 20 net carbs. And it really talks to you in the book about how to do that. What does that mean? What are the free foods that Dr. Saunders mentioned, etc. So if you don't have that, make sure you check that out. And we have had a lot of people have a ton of success. In fact, I can see some of you on here, so feel free to chime in and let us know how you're doing, Garcia's. But we're just excited for a lot of you, because I have gotten to meet with some of you, video chat just like this, and hear about your stories, and they're just so cool. And if I haven't heard your story, I'd love to hear it. So send me a message, Leslie@bartonpublishing.com. I would love to chat with you guys. So anyway, back to the show. Let's talk more about type 2. I want to do a quick, we've talked about what's happening with type 2. Tell us what type 1 is.
Okay, that's an excellent question, because we use the same name, diabetes. So obviously diabetes is diabetes, right? Wrong. It's completely the opposite. Remember, type 2 is too much. Type 1 is not enough. It's the opposite problem. So it makes perfect sense when you go into your doctor and doctor says, you have diabetes. Here, take insulin. Why? Well, because the original diabetes, type 1 diabetes, the first type, is your pancreas doesn't make enough insulin. And if you don't make enough insulin, then you can't get sugar or proteins into your cells, so they don't grow. So you can't put weight on, and you just shrink and you shrivel up and actually waste away and die of starvation, no matter how much you're eating, because you have to have that insulin to get those nutrients into your cells, those macronutrients. So the diabetes type 1 is not enough. If you have diabetes type 1 and your pancreas is not making insulin, you need insulin. That's why you have to have shots. There's no way around that. So that's an important thing to understand, that even though they have the same name, type 2 is too much, type 1 is not enough. And they're opposite problems. But the reason they have the same name is because if you don't have enough insulin, then you can't get sugar into your cells and your blood sugar goes up. If you have too much insulin, you're insulin resistant, they have the same problem. The blood sugar goes up. So they have the same name because the blood sugar's up, even though they have opposite reasons for it. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I have gotten quite a few messages from people who do have type 1, wondering how the diabetes solution kit may benefit them. Can you touch on that?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I have several with type 1 diabetes, and they were, this one young woman, she was at a famous diabetes clinic that she was going to, and her blood sugars were 550. She was like way out of whack and not able to control it. And they told her she could eat anything she wants, just give herself more insulin, and so she would. and then she would go way high, and it was just a crazy problem. So I put her on the diabetes solution kit. I actually put her on the same program, and now she is mostly around 200, 180. So if you're from Canada, she would be mostly around 7, 8. It's high. It's high blood sugar, but for a type 1, where she was before was unacceptable, very high to very low. And now she's pretty stable. So that's what you get if you use the diabetes solution kit with type 1 diabetes. She still injects insulin, but she has a stable blood sugar. Now we're working on getting her down gradually to go down with her diet. Because she's using insulin, she's gaining weight now, because she'd lost a bunch of weight because she didn't make insulin, right? So now she's putting it all back on because she's using insulin. So we're working on the next phase of her journey, and that is to get her weight down so she needs less insulin, and get her diet lower in carbs essentially, but lower in calories, so that she can get her weight down and need less insulin, and then be more stable on a lower level.
Very cool. Okay.
Dr. Saunders, quick question. How much does timing come into play as far as, you talk about eating and habits? Is timing a big deal on when you eat these things?
Yes. We should have like a whole webinar on this, on timing, because people who eat at night, they don't take in their blood sugar as well, and into the cells, so they tend to get a higher blood sugar, and they can crash at night. Eating in the morning works really well. That's when you have your cortisol released. That's when your adrenal glands start functioning. That's when your metabolism starts kicking in. And eating at night is just the opposite. Everything is shutting down, and you're putting food in there, and you're adding into your blood sugar issues. So yeah, eating in the morning is a great idea. Eating at night is not a good idea.
Good questions. We might have to do a webinar on that and revisit our 610 reset. Okay, so I'm going to read through some of these questions or comments that have come in here. We do have an update from the Garcias. Barbie is below 120, Velo below 100 for the past 30 plus days, and they are both working through phase 2 and 3. They are also completely off of metformin. And guys, man, I don't even think you guys are at 3 months yet. Are you, from starting this? Let me see if I have any other notes in here. Maybe 3 months at best. So pretty phenomenal. And they are putting in the work. I mentioned that a lot when I talk about them. They are doing the hard stuff. They're fully committed. They're not, oh, but could I do this just for now? No, they're really doing it. Like, they're doing it hard. So proud of them. So excited. Let's see, message here from Krish. Hi, Krish. Too much cortisol, you just stated, causes insulin resistance. Will it make sense to have blood cortisol measured at any one time, since it's likely to be fluctuating? It says, by the way, can blood cortisol be measured? And if so, what would be the ideal range for us?
Okay, that's a great question, because it gives you an idea and I always measure cortisol. I measure blood cortisol in the morning, and it gives you an idea of where the person is as far as their cortisol levels, because it should be between 10 and 20, essentially. And most people are right in there, but if they're like 19, 20, 21, 22, right at the upper edge, then you go, okay, that's a pretty high morning cortisol. So that's an indication that they might have more insulin resistance from that excess cortisol. Whereas if they're, 10, 11, 12, 13, then you're like, okay, no, you're good as far as that goes. But yes, that's the thing. It fluctuates a lot. So they do have tests, and I sometimes order these on people that I really think have adrenal problems. is a saliva test. You spit into these tubes. And I think, Leslie, you've done one of these, right? Where you spit into the tubes. And you do it 7 times throughout the day. So you're doing it from morning to evening, and it gives you your circadian rhythm of what your adrenal glands are doing. That is a great test. And there's a lot of different labs that do that test. And many local labs, our local lab does it. And so that's useful. Yeah, checking your cortisol levels are good. And if you're going to check the blood levels, you can do it several times throughout the day, and that's just fine. I usually just check the morning, the AM cortisol around 8 o'clock in the morning. And that gives an idea of what the person's level, at least the peak that they get.
Okay, let's see. Connie says, yes, Connie, I love that you put Connie in there because you remember that I say it wrong every time, but I remembered without seeing that. So that makes me happy. It only took 141 episodes. We're getting there. All right. Planning to do a water diet starting June 1. I'm going to try it for 2 months to fix fingers on both hands, thumb, and the index. We've talked about fasting quite a bit on this webinar. And so any advice or anything you want to say to Connie about this?
Water diet for 2 months. Okay. That's a long time to fix fingers.
Neuropathy, maybe?
Neuropathy or Raynaud's, where the circulation is decreased or something like that, I suppose. And fasting can be very useful for that. I hope you have somebody helping you through it. I have had people, so a couple of things to look out for is when you're doing a water fast for that long, it's common to have electrolyte changes. Your body's changing a lot in the electrolytes. And so you may have issues of, if you stand up too fast, you start getting dizzy. That's because the blood runs out of your head. Your blood vessels there's not enough fluid in there to get them back up because there's not enough salt. So adding some salt in, some rehydration solution or of some kind, like with the potassium and sodium sometimes, having bone broth occasionally, I think is a good idea. I had somebody, just to tell you a story, this is an actual real case. I had somebody who did 30 days of water only, and this was his choice. He said, it wasn't even anything that I recommended. He came and he said, okay, my heart disease is bad. And the doctor said, if I don't have bypass surgery, I'm going to be dead in 30 days. He said, I don't want the surgery. And I've looked it up. I've done all this research. I want to do a 30-day water fast. Can you help me? And I'm like, yeah, I can help you with that. So 14 days into it, right? He's halfway through. At night, he stands up in the dark, passes out, hits his forehead on the piano, and ended up in the ER getting stitches in his head, with the ER doctor saying, well, that's stupid. What are you not eating for? That's the worst thing you can do for your health. You better stop that. You better start eating because, you got to eat. So just like the doctor going on and on about it, he kept going and he did it for 30 days. But at the end of 30 days, he was playing tennis with no chest pain. And now 4 years later, he still doesn't have any heart disease at all. He's fine. So it works, but you got to be careful of things like electrolyte imbalances where you may get dizzy. If you get dizzy, just sit down. Don't think it's going to go away because it may not. Just sit down.
Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Synachroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking Synachroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated Synachroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With Synachroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients: The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those two together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using Cinnachroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get Cinnachroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, Cinnachroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
Okay, message here from Deb. My husband just had emergency gallbladder removal surgery. He's been working so hard at lowering his sugar. His last A1C was down to 5.5. It has been almost a week now and he still feels pretty poorly, has no appetite, and suffers from bouts of diarrhea. Doctors said he should be as good as new in a few days. So the question is, will his healing process be longer because of the diabetes? Also, he was admitted last Tuesday, but didn't have surgery until Thursday. He wasn't allowed to eat or drink, just the IV with no meds, and his sugars were 89 to 113. When he went off the IV, he had a couple of Lorna Doones, and it went up to 155. Those are good, but anyway, sorry, they're a cookie. It went up to 155 and later 199. Any suggestions on what he should be eating to avoid issues with the surgery, as well as type 2 diabetes? And when will the carbon dioxide leave his body? His abdomen is still huge.
Okay. Good questions. Carbon dioxide is actually pretty well absorbed by the blood, so that'll clear out pretty quickly within a few days. So the question that you're asking is a really good question, and that is, number one, will the diabetes affect the healing process? Absolutely it does. The gallbladder is definitely affected by diabetes, definitely affected by high blood sugar. Hemoglobin A1C 5.5 is non-diabetic though. That's actually really good. So I don't see how that's a problem. I don't know. But the other part of that is keeping the sugar down. What do I do? What do I eat so that I keep my sugar down and allow healing, the best healing possible? Okay, so for this kind of a problem, gallbladder problems, remember I'm giving general information. For gallbladder problems, the best thing you can do is a high fiber diet. And the higher fiber, the better. And no, it's not necessarily better to put a bunch of psyllium seed, there's a whole bunch of types, or just use one type of fiber. You want kind of a broad spectrum of soluble and insoluble fibers. So eating fruit, vegetables, and just don't even eat fat for a while, because fat causes the gallbladder to contract, and it can cause, the bile is like a soap that allows the fat to be soluble in water. And so the bile's coming out all the time, but you may not have enough to take care of all fat if you eat a high fat diet. So just stay away from fat for a while and introduce it slowly. Just eat a lot of fiber, fruit, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, beans, peas, lentils, chickpeas, and hummus, and all that stuff. That's all got a lot of fiber in it. So eating that high fiber diet helps the gallbladder. That's the best way to heal.
Okay.
Dr. Saunders, quick question on that. In our fiber grains mix that you formulated, you talked about soluble, insoluble. I'm just curious, do we have both in there?
Yes, there are. The artichoke has the soluble fiber, and the psyllium is the insoluble fiber. It's got both, but that's still only two. So if you add that in, that's good. And then add the fruits and vegetables as well.
One other thing too, I'll quick mention, if you guys hear us chatting about supplements, I switched offices and I don't have all my supplements in here to show you, but if we bring up something, for example, what if Eric went and grabbed it? Yes, he did. Let me put this on gallery here so we can see this. Okay, so he's holding up the new Fiber Greens product. Some of you have tried this. I know you have. It is so good. But for those of you who are watching this webinar, if you go to Barton Nutrition or Barton Webinar, we'll give you a link there. You can get 25% off of our supplements. So you'll go to Barton Webinar, it'll bring you to our supplements. And then when you check out, type in code webinar25. I'll go ahead and post that here too, but you can get a discount on all these supplements. And, you know, not everyone in our team has type 2 diabetes, but we pretty much use all the supplements. They're just really good. And we get excited about them. Like, it's like in the candy store when you finally get a good supplement that you really like. Like if you're going to have a fiber drink and it tastes good, like that's amazing. So, and this one has been really popular for a lot of people. So anyway, the code again is webinar25, and that'll save you 25%. Okay, I just had to quick interrupt with that. Okay, so we had some good notes here. Okay, here's a really good note from Jerry. Been on the program since April 11th. I'm in phase 2 now. Lost 16 pounds, taking metformin 500 2 times daily. This last week has had some major drops during sleep with blood sugar, so I've quit my nighttime metformin. Last night was better with no drops into the 50s and 60s. Blood pressure is great also. Wondering if I should cut that down at this point also.
Cut the metformin down?
Unless we're talking about blood pressure, but I think metformin.
Yeah, that's a possibility. And that's where you discuss that for your individual case, because I don't have your test results and all that, but it sounds like if you're getting low, like into the 50s at times, then it would be good to go off medication. So that's where you talk to your doctor and say, look, I'm getting low. Is it a good idea for me to stop taking the medication?
Okay. All right. We have a note here from Andy. Oh, you guys give me all these words. Does I can do this. Dihydroberberine have more benefits than berberine?
Wow. I don't know.
Okay.
The stump the doctor. I don't know. I think berberine's great. And every time I look at a study of berberine, I'm like, wow, that's good. It's a good herb. It does a lot of things. So, but I don't know if that's I kind of look at it this way when I think of things like turmeric versus curcumin. Curcumin is found in turmeric, and it's fine either way. But there's just always something that I think the whole herb is better than the part. Is, we always like to parse things out into this is the business end, this is the most important part of it, and take it out and say that's it. And so, when I look at other things like vitamin E, for example, you look at your vitamin E pill and it's D-L-alpha tocopherol acetate or something like that. And what they don't tell you is vitamin E is actually a whole spectrum of things. It's like mixed tocopherols, it's alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and then there's tocotrienols, and that's all vitamin E in nature. And then we parse out, this D, alpha tocopherol, is the best or the most active form of it. Therefore, that's all you need. And that may not be true. It seems like as research is done, you actually need the full spectrum. So I would tend to go with the whole herb berberine as opposed to the isolating part of it. I don't know.
Okay. Anonymous attendee here says, if type 2 is too much insulin, why are doctors prescribing insulin as a solution?
I did not say that, right? I didn't say it. Somebody who is not a medical professional, said that. You guys are so smart. You're smarter than most doctors.
Do we know why?
That's it. That's the question. The question is why.
All right.
Then, well, I mean, the answer to that is that what I told you is they have the same name. So obviously, if it makes sense that if someone comes in and they have diabetes, then I know how to treat diabetes: insulin, right? Because that lowers the blood sugar. Blood sugar is high, insulin lowers the blood sugar. Makes perfect sense. But you're right; it's the wrong treatment.
All right. What is, okay, so I'm going to read this like it's written. What is mechanism of action of metformin? Why does it make you lose so much weight?
Okay. That is not fully understood, but there is one part of it that is understood, and that is it causes an increase in something called cyclic AMP. Excuse me. So metformin blocks an enzyme in the mitochondria that uses sugar. And so you end up with more of this, what's called AMP, adenosine monophosphate, and which is supposed to be made into ATP, but it's not working. So you're getting a buildup of this. And then the body says, oh, we have a lot of that. We have to start using fat for energy. And so it kind of forces the body, by blocking the enzyme to use sugar, it forces the body to burn fat. So people lose weight more easily with it. And it's pretty safe too. I really don't tell people to get off it right away. At some point they may not need it. But if they're going to be on anything, I think that's a reasonable one to be on.
Okay, these are good questions, guys. Let's see. This comes up quite a bit. So someone is asking about taking Synachroma while they're fasting. How do you navigate supplements while you're fasting?
Oh, I just don't take them at all. When I'm fasting, I'll fast anywhere from 1 to 3 days a month, and I just no food, no supplements. I don't even drink water. I have nothing at all.
All right. Don says, you say not to eat at night, but I prefer to eat at 8 p.m. Why shouldn't I eat at night?
Okay. Good question. We have what's called the 610 reset, and it's pretty cool. And I have a handout in there if you go into the website, and it shows you the anabolic versus catabolic metabolism. Catabolic metabolism is when you're breaking down everything during the day, when you're active and you're eating and you're doing stuff and you're breaking down your joints and breaking down your muscles because you're exercising, and you're causing inflammation in your brain and everywhere else in your body. And all this is going on. Why? Because you're active and doing stuff. It's like driving a car. So while you're driving your car, the engine's getting hot, the engine's wearing out, you're wearing out the seat you're sitting in, and the tires on your car are wearing out. You can't stop that. You can drive as carefully as you want, but you're still wearing out your car just because you're driving. Well, that's the way the body is. So when you're eating, you are creating this catabolic state. So when you stop eating, you create an anabolic state. And that's the big benefit of fasting, is creating the anabolic state. What does anabolic mean? Well, you may have heard of anabolic steroids, right? That's what the bodybuilders use to make big muscles. Well, that's what anabolic is. It's rebuilding, repairing, it's cleansing and detoxing. And all of that happens at night if you don't eat, if you have an empty stomach. So going to bed with an empty stomach is a very important thing. It's like the fountain of youth. If you go to bed with an empty stomach, then you release human growth hormone, and then you get ghrelin. Well, you make ghrelin, which repairs your intestines, And then and that's a growth hormone releasing hormone. Then you get human growth hormone. Then all the anabolic hormones start working to repair and rebuild your body. And so if you're eating, you're catabolic, you're tearing down, you're making inflammation. That's just what happens because you're doing all these chemical processes for all the energy in your body. And then at night, you need to get anabolic. But if you're eating, it's not going to happen. It just doesn't happen because your stomach's not empty. Even water, by the way, anything that distends the stomach stops you from making ghrelin. So you need it really like an empty stomach when you go to bed so that you get anabolic and then you rebuild, repair, cleanse, detox, and everything comes back to normal and repairs during the time that you're fasting. And that happens at night because you only release the human growth hormone at night when your cortisol is at the lowest point. So all of these things come together to say, don't eat after 6. Did I explain that well? Is that confusing? Confuse everybody.
That's so good. I love all this information. I mean, we've been places where people are paying big money to get like human growth hormone and all of these things, to have this fountain of youth. And man, all you got to do is not eat at night. Well, who knew,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's almost like our bodies were made to fast.
Yeah.
Okay. So many good questions here, guys. This is good.
So just one thing about that, the water goes through your stomach pretty quickly. So, if you drink some water at, 8 o'clock at night, it'll be emptied out by 10. So be in bed at 10 and don't eat anything after 6. You just really want an empty stomach when you go to bed. So if you drink some water at 8 o'clock or whatever, but even then it's better to calm it down and make it small amounts.
Okay. This comes up quite a bit. Can chronic pain cause glucose levels to rise or stress?
Oh, huge. Chronic pain. Oh man, that's a tough thing to deal with. I've had a lot of people in pain all the time and it's hard. And so you can imagine if you're in pain all the time that your adrenal hormones are kicking out extra cortisol, and that makes you more insulin resistant. And so it makes you more likely to have type 2 because you're more likely to get insulin resistance and that vicious cycle that I was talking about earlier. Chronic pain's a bad thing. And dealing with it is really important.
Okay. Let's see. Any advice if you are type 2 and you get this new strand of COVID?
Well, there's nothing you have to do in talking about whatever the viruses that are going around. There's always some kind of virus going around. Every year we get a pandemic of a flu virus, and there's all kinds of them. There's coronaviruses and paramyxovirus, orthomyxovirus, and respiratory syncytial viruses, and blah, 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 blah. There are all kinds of them. So there's always one going around every single year, and they didn't used to make a big deal out of it, but now they're making a big deal out of it. They're making us aware of it, whereas before they kept all the statistics, and they just said, well, get your flu shot, and that's all they ever said. But now they're saying, oh no, the whole world's going to die. Every year, 60 million people get it, and a few million people die, and that's kind of just a normal process of what happens. So what do you do to protect yourself from these viruses? Low stress, top, number one, most important. Get enough vitamin D. It turns out that having higher levels of vitamin D makes you less likely to get symptoms. So you'll get the illness and you'll get antibodies against it and you'll be immune to it, but you'll say, gee, I didn't even know I had it. That's really what you want, because then you got both. You got immunity, you're never going to get it again, and you didn't even know you had it. So no symptoms. That's really the ideal place to be. That's better than vaccines and all that stuff. So the other things are to make sure your immune system is functioning well. Zinc is really important. Selenium and vitamin C. And the best way to get vitamin C, again, instead of the pill, the reductive pill that has just the ascorbic acid in it, ideally you want vitamin C with bioflavonoids. So if you're getting your vitamin C from strawberries and oranges and grapefruits and peppers and salads, and if you're getting your vitamin C from fruit and vegetables, then you're getting a spectrum of what we would call a vitamin C. So it's important to have all of them too.
Here's a note from Krish talking about a variety of things as far as if you're, okay, let me find it. Hold on here. I thought I had it in my head, but I don't. Is consumption of a variety of fibers the answer as a natural remedy for IBS and ulcerative colitis?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I read a book, and I'm going to recommend this book. It's called Fiber Fueled. And I can't pronounce the doctor's name. It's Dr. Will B. Brzezinski or some Berkowitz or something like that. One of those Eastern European names that I can't pronounce. But it's called Fiber Fueled. And he's a gastroenterologist, and that's what he works with. That's precisely the people he works with. They're people that have ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease and other types of colitis and irritable bowel syndrome and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, okay, this is what you got to do. And he spells it out. So yeah, read that book, go through it. He's a gastroenterologist. That's what he does. That's what he works with.
Cool. Okay. How does Dr. Saunders suggest getting blood flow for diabetes to impotence?
Okay, for impotence. Okay. That is an issue. It's kind of like it's mostly we don't know kind of thing, but if it's because of diabetes type 2, there's the nervous system issue, and then there's the blood flow issue, the circulation issue. It's the microcirculation. So we have a supplement called
It's in here. I just saw it.
Nervala.
No, is it
Nervala? So Nervala has two things in it, alpha lipoic acid and benfotiamine, to improve circulation and to improve the nervous system somewhat. But controlling the blood sugar is actually really important for this. And I have had a case specifically because he mentioned it to me, and not everybody does. And that is somebody who did a fast, long-term fast for a couple of weeks. And he said that his impotence went away completely, that his function came back. So that's another possible way to look at it too.
Now Niagara XL is also a good one, right?
Right, Niagara XL, right. That's the herbal remedy for just about anybody. Yeah.
And again, you can find those if you go to bartonwebinar.com. You'll find a link to all of our supplements. Okay, let me see here. Don says, how much berberine? What would be well, first of all, let me ask this. He's wondering, can he switch out his metformin for berberine? And what would be the equivalent to metformin 500 milligrams?
Okay, as far as whether you should switch it out or not, that's where you work with whoever prescribed the berberine for you in the first place. And work with them to find out. So what you want is kind of equivalence. And it's pretty cool because a 500 milligram metformin is about equivalent to a 500 milligram berberine as far as its function on the blood sugar. So that makes it easy to switch it out. Okay.
Verna is wondering if there are any benefits to taking an isotopic calcium at night before bed.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sometimes I've had people do that. I've had several people who have sleep problems do that to prevent cramping. And I'm thinking of other options. I don't know, usually before bed, magnesium is recommended because magnesium has more of a calming effect. Calcium has more of a stimulating effect, and magnesium has more of a calming effect, but that's kind of in the brain. If somebody has other issues like muscle cramps and stuff like that, you may find the calcium works better. And I've had several people tell me that.
Okay, we have a message from Connie wondering about maybe what you would recommend, or if our supplements or anything could help with, I believe, Hashimoto.
Okay, thank you. There's been research on this. It comes from Japan. And in Japan, they looked at people with Hashimoto because it's fairly common there. And they don't have iodine deficiency, but they have all these antibodies against this PTO. It's an enzyme that makes the thyroid hormone. So, and they have an antibody against the enzyme. So the antibody can sometimes inhibit or cause too much inflammation and cause too much. So you can either have low levels with Hashimoto's or high. And sometimes people they're low and they add iodine in, and all of a sudden they get high. So that's why people are told not to use iodine. However, there was a really cool study done on selenium, and they found that over time, the people who took selenium, their hormone level, their antibody levels against thyroid drops down lower and lower. And if you look in the synochroma has about that right level of selenium in it because selenium is necessary for the enzyme to function. So adding the selenium did decrease the antibody levels.
Okay, I have a message here from Rosalind. It's on Facebook. I think I'll just start reading some of it here. Rosalind started a diet. She had lost 100 pounds. It was a diabetic diet. You have to eat to lose, but you can't eat after 6 or 7 p.m. And she says, I normally lost 4 to 6 pounds a week. I was told once trained, always trained. I kept a copy of that program. The clinic I went to took a blood and urine test to match me with the best program. Since I started, which was last week, Thursday, I've lost 10 pounds, but my blood sugar rocketed from 138 to between 188 to 200. I have 1 cup of green vegetables, 8 ounces of protein, 64 ounces of water twice a day, 3 fruit a day, but limited to what fruits I can have. The foods are organic, grass-fed, and I'm confused. I'm not having any diabetic symptoms, and I'm feeling good. So I started back taking my 1 injection a day, which is 30 units of Tresiba, and a weekly injection of Ozempic and the Synochroma twice a day. My blood sugar will go down to 98 if I don't eat anything. Then I'll get a headache. I'm thinking maybe my body just has to adjust to the change in eating. And then when I get up and check my blood sugar in the morning, it's 188 to 200. Can you help me understand what I'm doing wrong? I do take gabapentin, 300 milligrams, and herbs and multivitamin. I'm thinking that losing the weight will help bring it down and correct my blood sugar. I'm about 85 pounds from my goal. I figure since the diet is guaranteed to lose 36 pounds in 6 weeks, in at least 3 months, I should reach my goal. This is my first time in 30 years that my mind is made up to stick to it. I don't want to stop. It's no prepackaged foods involved. Everything has to be natural. I'm just confused, Dr. Saunders, and I don't know what to think or do.
Wow. Okay. I don't either. It's kind of a complex situation, but I'll give you some general ideas. With our 610 reset program, we essentially say the same thing, stop eating by 6 o'clock. There was a company, and I think it was out of Santa Barbara, a long time ago. This was like 20 years ago, and they had a weight loss program, and it was it was this pill that you had, and they said this is a special pill that has to be taken like after you eat at 5 o'clock, and then you can't eat afterwards, or it won't work. And people were losing weight, they were feeling good, they were doing great. And then somebody analyzed the pill and found that it was just a sugar pill, that there was nothing in it. So of course, the SEC, or the whatever the government agency, came down on them and said, hey, this is not a supplement, it's just a sugar pill, you're lying. And so they shut them down. And afterward, people are going, hey, wait, I need that pill. And they're going, no, you don't need the pill. All you need to do is stop eating after 5 o'clock. And you don't need to take the pill. No, it only works if I take the pill. It's kind of funny. It was just a sugar pill, but that program has been around for a long time. It works great, and it's part of our, 6-10 reset, which we advocate too. Not eating at night. So that's one part. The other part is the 3 types of foods. It's what you eat, when you eat, and how much you eat. So if you look at what you're eating, you may be very sensitive to carbs. So if you're eating certain fruits, for example, that are allowed on your diet, or certain vegetables that are high in starches, or like potatoes, or I don't know what all is allowed. But if you look at how much the sugar you're getting in all those natural foods, it may be over your limit. It may just be too much for you. And so what you eat is part of it. And then when you eat, and not eating after, or not eating in the evening, is a great idea, and that's really good. But maybe there have been plenty of studies on the mice, at least. Not eating after 3 is even better. So if you ate 2 meals a day, morning and early afternoon, and then not eat after that, that works. And then the other one is how much you eat. So you may look at, the other issue is maybe it's too much. Maybe you're just grazing and eating all day long, and it's all just generally too much, and that's why your blood sugar is going up higher. So those are the 3 issues to consider when you're having those issues, those problems.
Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Synachroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking Synachroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated Synachroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With Synachroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients. The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those 2 together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using Synachroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get Synachroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, Synachroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
Good information. Debbie had asked to explain the 6-10 reset, and I'm just going to let you guys know we're almost out of time, but we probably have a few webinars where we talk about this. So head to bartonwebinar.com. You'll find a link to our YouTube channel. You can search 6-10 and it will come up. Aileen, I got to chat with her, and she had shared this story, or kind of shared her story with me, but she just said she moved her dinner to an earlier schedule, and she feels so much better just by making that change in eating earlier. Her A1C is down, insulin's down, CKD down, weight down, still working on bedtime and breakfast time, but so far so good. So awesome. Good job. Let me see how many more questions I get in here in a matter of 1 minute. Oh no, so much pressure.
Sure.
Chris is wondering about, can he switch from 500 milligrams of melatonin as a sleep aid and take like ashwagandha or phosphatidylserine, as they all normalize the circadian rhythm?
Oh, yeah, those can be very helpful. Yeah, the phosphatidylserine works differently. It kind of lowers the adrenal output. So, and that's a good thing because that allows you to make the human growth hormone and get anabolic at night. So I often recommend PS as in people who are especially stressed or have high cortisol levels. You actually can take the melatonin with the others, and you're probably not on 500 milligrams of melatonin. It's probably like 5 milligrams or something like that. And that's generally okay. But if you if you don't want to take the melatonin, you want to take the others, that's fine too. But you can take them all together is what I'm saying, because they don't interact with each other. And I have people that are on all of them.
Thoughts on Trulicity? It seems to have a side effect that causes one to feel sick to their stomach.
Yeah, that's one of the issues with it. And if you have that, you know what? There's plenty of other medications out there. Just ask your doctor to switch you off of it and go, you know what? I'm getting even metformin. Some people get stomach upset with metformin too, and some people it goes away quickly, and some people just go blah. I can't stay on it, and they change to a different one.
I'm going to see.
Berberine.
Yes, I'm going to see if I can do these questions quick. Someone needs help with muscle cramps. They've ordered Nervala and magnesium spray. Are they going to help, or is there anything else that they could use? They're pretty bad. They might help. If your cramps are really bad, consider oyster shell calcium. I've had that work for people. Magnesium. Make sure you're getting enough potassium. So potassium is in fruit, vegetables, beans, peas, lentils. So potassium, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium are the 4 things to first look at for cramps. Because if those are balanced, then your cramps should be okay. If they're not balanced, then that's the first thing to start with. Okay. And last question. I was just diagnosed with type 2. There's a lot of information here. Where do I start? Oh, wow. Start with the Diabetes Solution Kit. Get the book, read through the book, answer the questions. They have like a really cool startup where you go, okay, my goal is, and you just write, this is what I want to do, and this is where I want to go, and just set it up that to have that your starting point, and then just go into phase 1, and it's all explained in the book. Perfect. We'll chat some more about that. I know you need to go. Thanks so much for being with us, Dr. Saunders. All right. See you next week. All right. Bye. Okay, guys. So bartonwebinar.com is where you can go to get information. It's kind of our webinar hub site. We have other sites that you can go to for things, but I like, if you're on this webinar, I kind of like to just direct you there, because you will find a link to our supplements. You'll find the link to our YouTube channel. It'll take you to all the places that we've talked about today. But like Dr. Saunders said, the Diabetes Solution Kit is really a really good place to start. Once you get this and start digging into it, hop on the webinars and ask questions. There's a lot of support here from the people who are on the webinars, but then also from Dr. Saunders. And a lot of the questions that you may have, actually, you may find at bartonwebinar.com. We have our list of top 10 questions that people ask on their journey. And so check those out. Check out the past webinars. There's just so much good information. You're not alone in this. We've had thousands of people, I think. How many people actually have probably purchased the Diabetes Solution Kit? Do you have any idea, Eric? I should know that.
I think it's over 100,000, but yeah.
And Dr. Saunders has worked with, he's worked with thousands as well. I'll just say that. But this has come from all of his experience in helping people. So, and this has been revised. We've revised this, I suppose it says somewhere, numerous times. And the whole team has helped work on this. So we take your feedback, we see what's working for you, which is why I'd love to chat with you guys too. Find out what you have learned, what was hard for you, what you wish you would have known. And we like to implement that into the book when we redo those. So again, if I haven't chatted with you and you want to share your story, tell me how things are going, what's working. I would love, love, love to hear from you. So feel free to send me a message, Leslie at Barton Publishing. I'm actually going to go ahead and post that here again in the chat. But it's really fun to get to know you guys because I know quite a few of you who are on here now. We've gotten to chat and it's just good. Plus I can kind of be an accountability partner to you too. I won't always have the answers, but you can at least give me your report so I know how you're doing. And I love that. I like to be your cheerleader. That's the best part of my job, is to just get to be there and see that you're having success. And so there's many of you on here that are doing that, and so fun. I'm so thankful to get to do that. So we are here every single week talking about type 2. So invite a friend. If you have a friend who's struggling, or maybe someone who's pre-diabetic, this information is for them and it's free. So go ahead and share this with them. And anything else, Eric, that you can think of?
10th edition.
10th, is that what you said?
Yeah, I looked inside.
Nice. Nice. All right.
Thanks for letting me hang today.
We're so glad you were here.
Yeah, awesome. It's good
Do
stuff.
you remember what episode you did that you were on? Do you have any idea?
No, it's been probably 3 or 4 months where I got to ask a lot of questions of Dr. Saunders. And yeah, it's been a little while. So
I think if you guys go to YouTube and you type Eric's name, it might come up, because I think his name's in the title. So you can learn a little bit more about him and hear all his questions. And I think it was a really good webinar. So check that out, you guys. And we'll be back here next week. I will. Maybe Eric will. You never know.
You never know who you're going to get.
Yeah, you don't. That's good. All right, guys. Thanks again so much. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place. God bless.